Whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. It's past the hour of 6:30 PM. Call the Northborough Fire Building Committee to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 14, 2023 meeting.
Madam Chair, motion?
We're only going to be showing the presentation on this wall this time. I'm not connected, no, something's, sorry.
No, you guys can go ahead, take your time.
Yeah, sorry,
You
I
can-
realized that nothing.
I have it closed so Dawn doesn't get blinded.
Yes, the last time we did it over here, so I was just.
Yeah, I was just changing things because that's the kind of guy I am.
Changing it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Chair, a motion to accept the minutes as written
Okay.
last meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're abstaining, aren't you?
Well, I wasn't sure if I should abstain. I was sort of here,
Oh, you were there. That was
but I
right.
didn't hear every word, so,
No, it's okay. You're fine.
okay.
I'd forgotten that you were with us.
I was there. I watched the
Okay.
presentation. It's great.
All right, discussion on joint meeting results.
Yeah, I
Chief.
just saw, I put that on the agenda because I thought maybe it warranted us discussing whether or not we thought the meeting went well, if we got anything out of it. I thought it went fairly well. I thought we were able to get a good exchange of ideas. I know it was probably kind of tough for you, Diana, remotely, but John, what do you think? It was,
There was a good dialogue. People were engaged from the respective committees. There was some thoughtful questions raised. I thought that our team here did a great job presenting it and fielding questions. And I think people walked away, with a good idea of, what the project is as of now, and ultimately go through the process when we vet them through the respective committee processes.
okay. One of the things that I did want to mention that came up was there was a lot of discussion about parking. And I think it's really important. I tried to make the point that night, but I wanted to make it again.
Excuse me,
Oh, sure, just show up.
Welcome.
I wanted to make it,
is this Mitch's chair?
that's your chair, bud.
Good chair.
I wanted to make it clear, I made it clear that night that this is not a parking project. This is a fire station project. And if there's additional parking that is developed because of it downtown, that's a benefit. But that's not the purpose of this. There was concern because of the site, whether or not we could put additional parking down there now or in the future. And as I stated that night, if the town wants to put money into it in the future and put parking up back, that's fine. But that's not the purpose of this thing. The purpose of this committee is to design and hopefully get past the fire station for that location. Anything else, Cap? Did you have anything that came up that night? Tom, we're just talking about a recap of the meeting. I said I thought it went fairly well. I thought there was some good input from everyone. There was a lot of focus on parking, and it just, again, that's not the purpose of this. If there's parking that is gained because of it, that's just an extra benefit, but that wasn't the intent, so. Anything that you wanted to comment on about the meeting or anything?
I think their preference for brick was good to hear, because I think that's where we were headed in the first place. Maybe we can talk about the difference between CMU backup wall versus steel studs, but that's down the road. I'm glad they brought up this concept of New England architecture, which doesn't exist in our master plan. There are two mentions of New England in the design guidelines. One, where it says in the purpose that we want the structures in the downtown to be compatible or consistent with New England architecture. And then there's some mention of New England materials, brick, stone, clapboards, but this concept of a New England style doesn't exist. We have a lot of very beautiful historic styles, but they're American historic styles. They're not just in New England, but I think this may come up in your subsequent meetings, and you need just to be comfortable with how you handle the notion that this is in our master plan or this is in our bylaws. It's not. So
Okay.
that's all I wanted to add.
I did like, it's funny, they mentioned, Lisa mentioned arched doors, and we had no kidding, a couple days before mentioned, I want arched doors, and I had all these pictures, and the deputy had already been looking on pictures of things, of doors that we like, so it was funny that she mentioned that, because, yeah, that is a traditional firehouse look, the arched doors. Now, there's different ways to do it, and we've discussed all the different, possible different ways. You can make it look arched, but it's not really arched, and, the doors, we want to put the bifold doors, I think the red bifold doors with an arched look, it really is, to me, is an old fire station, and I really like that look, so. I think overall it went well, so and I appreciate all the members of design review that were there, the members of master plan implementation, making a special trip down there for us that day, and all of you guys, obviously, and Diana coming in remotely, even though she wasn't feeling well, and of course our board, so overall, I was very happy with the way it went, so, thank you.
I do have one point, if that's okay, to build on what Tom was talking about. I thought the precedent study was excellent because you really showed the diversity of the building styles and typologies that we have in Northborough. And I think that's an important narrative, regardless of where the design lands. There's so much diversity that it's not going to be that hard to design something that can be very contextual. So I thought that was a really good stepping stone for everyone.
No, I agree with you. I think when you look at the center of town and you look at the different buildings, you could design almost anything and it would fit in the center of town with one building or another. So,
Yep.
But I think we did get an idea of what they were looking for, and at least I feel a little more comfortable now with this whole concept of New England building, so.
I guess I'm gonna ask our team as well, did you guys get what we were looking for? Were they able to help us out with?
I think we learned a lot
Good.
from them, and, since we were already looking at masonry as a product, I think we would diversify that masonry to be other materials and work with it. We heard the arch, and you're going to see a bunch of arches tonight because we heard you loud and clear that, we want to explore that. And then we also heard that the committees seemed to be comfortable with different forms. They weren't driven by, only a form, which is very helpful for us because I think they understood, the ramifications of very huge pitch roofs on these big buildings. So all those things were really good. And we still have quite a bit of work to do, but that was really helpful for us. So, and I think it was a good dialogue. I think
Good.
we'll see what happens, but,
Good stuff.
Okay. All right, how about design updates?
Okay.
So, you want this green on?
Yeah.
Madam
want
Chair,
me to
you may
move?
want to move over here because you'll get blinded if you don't.
Is it just the power button?
No,
No,
I got
okay.
it.
You got it.
Open it. You gotta open it up there. Oh, there you go. Okay, so now can we get it? It's a little angled keystoning.
Man, you guys want to do
We can adjust that one. What? Maybe the arrows.
Keystone.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Say when.
That's probably good.
Good?
Yep.
Okay.
Ooh, no, we
No?
can't, not yet, because,
Oh,
I haven't
there we go.
done that.
Okay. So the presentation tonight, we're going to be talking about where we are in the design process. We are going to talk a little bit about, whoops.
Okay. I meant that.
A little bit about where we are with the site design, and then the concept development. We're going to show you 2 plan options we've been working on, and then where we are with the elevations. We've started exploring them a little beyond what you've seen before. We'll update you on the schedule and then talk about the next steps. So for the site, this is the plan option. We've been calling it 2A, which is the more developed plan that we've been working with the fire department on. And we've been working with the civil engineers and looking at the site a little bit more. So let's see, does the pointer work? The pointer works. That's great. Okay, so in this scheme, we've got parking for 23 staff and 30 guests. The public parking is over on this side of the building. And then we've got the numbered spaces are the administration staff spaces, so they're sort of split up in the 2 parking lot areas. The one off but that the public comes in has a few administrative spaces assigned to it, and then most of the staff comes in on this side of the apparatus bays and can park all along here.
So Amy, the public spaces are the immediate ones as you enter, on the right.
Correct, on the right, right over here, yep.
Yep.
Yep. And, the important thing here is that the orientation of the building, we've talked a lot about with the department, and we've talked to the committee about this too, and they're most comfortable having the apparatus bays on this side of the building because of the sight lines as the road curves and because of access into Dunkin' Donuts over here, and making sure that there's no conflicts with the apparatus apron and the traffic coming in and out of Dunkin' Donuts. So this scheme and the shape of the building, keeping the apparatus space sort of forward, not having any of the administration spaces pulled forward of the apparatus space, so that as the trucks come out, they've got a nice clear line of sight going down the street and also into the two drives there. That's really important.
ADA is going to require some handicap spots, I assume?
Yeah, we've got some handicap spots right over here.
Big ones in there, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I figured,
Yeah.
thank you.
And this, again, is a scheme, excuse me, a drawing, excuse me, that we've been developing at HKT, and the civil engineers have been looking at this and they've been commenting on it, but they're going to start, working on it and developing it a little more. So it's still very conceptual, and they'll be layering a lot more information on it as we move forward. But the important thing, we've got the separation, public versus staff, as we talked about. So it's all designed around safety and trying to make the site work for the department as much as possible. We've talked about where the building is placed on the site and what that means for the retaining walls. There will be some retaining walls around here, but all of this is doable. There's nothing in the design that, or nothing about the site that we've seen that precludes you from building this building here. It's definitely buildable. Every site that we run into has challenges. This site has challenges, but nothing that we see indicates that there's anything that we can't handle on this site.
That's
So,
good to hear.
yeah.
There was some concern from some parties that there, in town, that we were trying to fit a building onto a site that wasn't appropriate for it. And I think that comes from the fact that the original design was done without a survey in mind, right, so it was done, and now we discussed some changes. There were some issues with how far back it was, and although that may make it more challenging, that certainly doesn't eliminate the site at all.
Right, not at all. And I think that's really common in projects where as you learn more, as you get farther in the design, you learn more, and there's more that you have to account for and adjust for, and I think that happens on every project. So, it wasn't what you expected, but it's nothing that we can't manage and handle with the engineers. So. Okay, so that is the first scheme, and so we talked a little bit about the parking and the drive aisles. Everything's accessed off. Whoops. Did we lose the other option, or no? We've got the plans
No,
right
it's
after.
afterwards.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So these are the floor plans. This is the first floor plan, and we've got the entrance into the lobby here, and the training room is located right off of the lobby. Then the administration spaces for the fire department are all located on the first floor. The admin person has a good view of the lobby to be the meter and greeter for the public coming in. We have a lockdown from that point for private spaces. And then you've got all of the apparatus bays and the apparatus support spaces located here on the first floor. We've been working with the department and internally to make sure that we get a flow that really works through here, to have a good workflow for getting through hot and cold zones and decontaminating the firefighters as they come into the station, making sure that they can get into the decon room and the laundry, get their gear put away, use the showers and toilet rooms if they need to before they move out of this area of the station into administration or into living quarters. And I think we've got a flow that's working pretty well there. We've got the training tower located in front of the building, which gives us some opportunities on the elevation as well. And then on the second floor, we've got the living quarters. We have all of the dormitory bunk rooms up in this area of the building. We did revise the bunk rooms, I think since the last time you saw it, so that we put the lockers outside of the bunk rooms, which we've done in other stations. It gives them a little bit of flexibility at change of shifts. If somebody's been up all night on call, they could sleep a little longer if they need to, and someone can come in and put their belongings into a locker and not disturb them. It's a kind of a nice solution. We have the day room and kitchen here. They have access to a roof deck where they could have dining. They could have some little planters for some vegetables or whatever out there. We've got some mechanical spaces, fitness room, which also has access to roof here, toilet and shower rooms. and then a pole giving vertical access down to the apparatus bays. So that is the first scheme. So this is the option number 3 that we've been working on. And this one, if you remember, we were trying to minimize as much as we could the footprint on the site to try to reduce the impact of some of these retaining walls. The hope was that if we had a smaller footprint here, we could get the parking tighter to the building, and we could pull this retaining wall back out of the hillside a little bit here. So in this scheme, we are designing a 2-story element in this part of the building for the administration on the second floor, and then we are putting living quarters up above the apparatus space here, sort of on 2.5 stories, I guess we say. 2-story, yeah, it's hard. So in an attempt to minimize the footprint here. All the other elements that we showed you earlier are the same. We've still got the split for the public parking in this parking lot here with a few administration spaces, and then the fire department parking on this side of the building with access into the apparatus bays in the back. So we have that split for safety again in this scheme. And we still have all the lines of sight and all going down the street. So looking at the plans here, again, you come in the front door here into the lobby. The training and EOC room is over here. In this case, there is no meter and greeter on the first floor, and that is one thing to note about this scheme. There would need to be some sort of phone or a screen to video chat with the person on the second floor, and a visitor to the station would really be locked down into this zone or even into the vestibule until someone let them into the building and directed them to go up to the upper floors. But from the lobby vestibule here, once someone was directed in, they could be led into this stair to get up to the second floor, or over here to this elevator to get to the second floor. But they would be locked down to this area until they were allowed beyond. Our operation spaces are still over here. We still have a good separation and flow for the hot and cold zones over in this area here. So you come from the apparatus bays into decon, into laundry, and then either into gear or over into the toilet shower rooms over here. We've got some mechanical, electrical spaces over here, and more support spaces over here. In this scheme, because of where the living quarters are over the apparatus bays, we actually have 2 poles on either side. You'll see as we go up, and I should say they're actually split poles because the height is so great from the second floor or living quarters down to the apparatus bay. For safety reasons, we're designing it so that you go down one pole to an intermediate level, you get off, and you go down another pole to get down to the lower level. On the second floor, we've got the administration spaces, so someone coming up would come up either the elevator or the stair here and wind up in this lobby. Here's the meter and greeter, the admin person, and visitors are locked down into the lobby at this point, and then all the administration spaces are located over here. We've got a mechanical room with access to the roof for mechanical equipment here. You see the 2 poles here, the one coming down from above and then going down to the next level. And then the mezzanine space off the apparatus bay is located over here. And you see the two poles in this area. In the next floor, this is the living quarters. So to get to the living quarters, you can either use this stair to get up, or the elevator opens up over here. We have the day room and kitchen with access to roof deck back here. We have the fitness room, a couple of toilet rooms, quiet study room, all of the bunk rooms back here, located on the back side of the building, and a couple on the front side of the building here, and then toilet showers, janitor, laundry spaces here. Because of the way this lays out, we have to add another stair into the scheme to make egress work. So if I go back for a minute, you'll see for the admin and first floor, we've got the 2 stairs located over here, but then we need 2 stairs up on this level, and so we have 2 stairs located over here. So this scheme does add to the square footage a bit because of the circulation, but there are other benefits when you look at the site and when you look at the massing that we can talk about a little bit. If we go back to the site plan for a minute. Mark, do you remember off the top of your head how many feet we save on this retaining wall back here in the scheme?
We save about 5 or 6 feet.
5 or 6 feet?
Yeah.
So the retaining wall
Right
is a
now.
bit shorter right
Yeah,
now.
right.
Yeah. And again, the engineers need to really weigh in and do some grading here, but
And I think you indicated last week that that wall would be approximately 30 feet. One of the
Yeah, they first,
discussion
Yeah.
items
Yeah.
last week, right?
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this goes a little lower,
Yeah.
hopefully.
At the high point, it's not the entire.
Yeah, not the tower.
Right.
It's the back corner.
Right.
So if you, yeah, our spot grades here, we're showing 304 here for the pavement, and then 328 right there for the top of wall. And again, this is before the engineers grade it, but us just looking at it, this is about what we're seeing versus the other scheme. What do we got? 304 and 333. So I know you saw these the last time we met, or at least you saw the upper series of elevations comparing what the proposed fire station massing would look like to the neighbors. We're showing two schemes now. We're showing this is option 2A, where we just have the two-story element over here, and this is the massing of option 3, where we have the fire department living quarters up above the apparatus space. We wanted to show you the difference in the massing just compared to the neighbors, and then again compared to some of the buildings that you're used to in town. So you see in particular, you know, once we put a pitched roof on this building, how the massing really changes and becomes more comparable perhaps to the Old Town Hall building. And here's scheme 2A. These are just some of the neighboring businesses and sites that we looked at a little bit last time. Again, we're continuing to look at context, continuing to think about the building and its environment and what it means as we start designing it. You've been looking at these massing models that we've been playing around with. There were two that we were exploring. This is the one for option 2A, and this is the one for option 3. So we've taken the next step from these massing models, and we're starting to layer in materials, looking a little bit more closely at massing, looking at details in the buildings, and we're going to show you a series of elevations for the two schemes. These are all still works in progress. We still have a lot of work to do on it, but it will again show you our thought process and where we're moving. So this was a flat roof option for option 2A that we were looking at, and in this scheme we were starting to look at the detailing of some of the brick. You can see a lot of lines here, and those would be indicative of something like a brick recess perhaps, or these banding would be continuous courses of perhaps a projecting brick or a recessed brick, something to give texture to the building. Maybe it would be a different type of brick. But we're starting to look at those details and what it would mean. In this scheme, we have a number of punched window openings. We wanted to look at what we could do to group some of those things, start to develop some massing. We felt like this needed a little bit more of a vertical feel to it. So you can see there are some subtle changes in this scheme where we start to change materials around the doors and change colors to give these openings more of a vertical feel. We start to do the same thing between some of these windows to give these a more of a vertical feel and make it feel like we have more of some piers here. We have the way we treat this tower, it's got a bit of an asymmetric look to it with the banding on one side and the clock skewed over to one side, a flat roof on top of it with a change in materials at the top. So we're just looking at different ways to break down the massing, give it some definition, and explore what that does to the overall design. Here we start to change the roof line. We put a pitched roof over on this side of the building. And here we start to incorporate the arches. Everyone's been sharing lots of pictures of arches.
Just the deputies, not a lot.
In this scheme, we put an arch over every one of the apparatus bay doors, and then we have another arch element over here. You can see we have some color changes. It's sort of subtle, but the thought that maybe they would be two different styles or of brick, two different colors of brick, to give some interest to the building. The arches themselves might be of a different color, and then that banding continues in a larger base in this part of the building, and to connect over to the entrance, and then have that line continue around the building, both in a band here and a base here, to try to tie the whole thing together. We did this as sort of a first pass with the arches, and to be perfectly honest, we're not crazy about the arches.
Not at all.
I think, arches traditionally are a structural element used to frame a large opening, and it's not what we need to do now. We can frame with steel. We don't need to use arches, and typically they have much larger masses in the piers that carry the weight of that arch. These are very narrow piers, and so it feels like to us a lot of stuff going on that's just not quite the right proportion and quite the right massing. So we know that you're interested in arches, and so we started to explore some other opportunities with arches. What would it mean if we grouped doors together and had larger arches going over them? Here we've got the doors grouped in 3 groupings, and with these larger arches going over each of the groupings. Again, we've got a color change which sort of continues in a band running across the building and connecting into the entry. We've changed materials to create these larger opening groupings here, and picked up on that over at the entry, and again up here in the second floor element. So just another sort of exploration of what the arches might mean. We even simplified it so there was a single arch that went over all 6 of the bays here. And again, this really changes the massing, where we have this larger grouping of all the doors here, and we replicate it again over at the entrance, and connect the 2 elements with the banding and with the brick recesses and all. You'll see there's not a lot of variety for the window patterns that we're showing here. We've got a lot more exploration that we need to do on the window patterns. So I think that'll be the next step as we move forward. But we wanted to show you where we are at the moment.
Are those windows in a tower halfway up?
Yes.
Yep.
And then I have a question about the 2 latter versions of the arches.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain is wanting the darker surface to be set back, as if that,
Yeah, a
is
little
that
bit.
the case?
It would be nice.
It would be nice if we could do that, yeah.
It's just an elevation study at this point, so you're, okay,
Yeah,
so you're not
yeah,
there. I'm
yeah.
just thinking about that with anyway.
Yeah,
into that
no,
more.
I think that would be nice as well. We need to look at, what that means 3-dimensionally, because if we could recess these areas as well as the entry here, what that would feel like.
I mean, I side with these guys. I don't think this is the ideal place to use an arch, architecturally speaking, but we can talk about that more later.
Well, you're not a firefighter, so, doesn't matter.
Form follows function, so tell me about these arches and the functionality.
Well, that's so the horses can get in and out.
Exactly.
And you get the hay in through the tower?
That's right.
But you're creating, like we're talking about, you're going to step back this other surface in order to sort of like accommodate the arch. You're going to get fussy really quickly with arches.
Yeah.
And fuzzy
That's
is
why we kept
expensive.
trying to simplify it a little bit, even with the bigger ones, because the small ones are very fussy.
They're very
and they-
fussy.
And you
don't feel
you're paying
right.
for windows that aren't going to get you much light.
no. So,
Anyway.
Yep. Yep.
Continue. Sorry.
So the next couple of options are showing option number 3, where we go vertical and put the living quarters above the apparatus space. And again, the window patterns we still need to do some more work on, but here's an option with the 2 arches, and again the banding to connect the pieces. The massing really changes, but it starts to connect to these pieces a little bit more. It's interesting exploration. And here's one with the 1 arch. So the next thing we've got is the schedule. I don't know if we want to talk any more about these, if anyone has any comments
I
or
think we should talk about these.
questions.
You think?
Yeah.
We can go back to the plans if we want to talk about that.
Let's talk about the plans a little bit.
Can I make a
Yep.
comment or observation? One of the pictures you put up last week was Natick Fire Department.
Yes.
And there is I'll use the word keystone for lack of a better description, over the doors that I thought was interesting architecturally. That's just
Okay.
me, but.
Do you mean as sort of a nod to the idea of an arch, that it sort of signals an opening in a different way?
Something like that, yeah. If you saw the picture, you'd.
It's, you know, it's a precast piece, I believe, because it's a pretty modern building, so it's really not acting as an arch. I'll take a look at that.
I wouldn't say arch, but I'm saying just the whole idea of, somewhat New Englandy looking, kind of caught my eye,
Okay.
but it was native.
I mean, these schemes have definitely skewed not out of the contemporary into a more traditional approach right now, and, there's a little bit of, the opening sizes, like Amy was describing, not supporting the arch, becomes an issue right away, and all kind of things like that. So, again, we're trying to, break it down, look at those, again, massing, materials, and details. And we did some of the earlier studies that Mark was doing with us. We were looking at what happens when the pieces become too separate from each other.
He's got a photo of the native.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Oh, actually, yeah, oh, you got it better.
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it has a real old
It's
keystone.
more,
Yeah, it's got a trim piece with another layer and then a keystone.
Yeah.
but are those,
Mark
mean,
has, yeah. Can you see that?
so what kind of door, those are not the same kind of doors that she wants though, right?
No, those are overhead doors, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Those are not,
I like the doors that you like.
Yeah.
That creates a different aesthetic because it's a simpler way to respond to the arch, and I think that because of the verticality and sort of rhythm of these doors, which I think are beautiful on the very first one, and
Yeah.
I love that, but I think that those two things are gonna be at odds a little bit.
Yeah.
Can we go back to Diane's comment about form follows function? This is for
Let me
you.
have it, Tom.
No, in the late 1800s, H.H. Richardson developed these beautiful little libraries in Woburn, Malden, Quincy, and Northeaston. And he expressed the three major components of these libraries. There was the reading room, there was a circular stair tower, and then there was administrative. I get the sense that that strategy is latent in your design approach. It's proto-modern, but it's very New England, Boston architect. So I think that we should pursue that. Let's show the three distinct functions of our building, not only in plan, but also in elevation, and then let you guys make it work as a building, as all of a piece. So I think there are a lot of elements here that satisfies Diane's
Well, I like Richardson
modernity
too.
and
I
my,
actually really like H.H. Richardson. That was my
There you go.
training. But I think that the discussion of the arches and these elevations, I have to go back to the 2A versus the 3. To me, 2A makes so much more sense.
the what did you say?
So
2A.
2A
Okay.
makes more sense to me, and to the point that I think the extra 4 feet of the retaining wall is like really a secondary consideration. But you had mentioned when you were presenting, there are some other advantages to 3 that I think I might be missing, but it just feels more fragmented. I mean, it is intentionally spread out, but you're having to, in some ways, compensate for that, right?
Yeah.
The extra stair and those
Right.
things.
And I think, when I say there are some benefits, I think maybe there are benefits that, that we see from a design standpoint that maybe the fire department wouldn't agree with.
The fire department, I'll speak for the fire
Yes,
department.
speak for the fire department, please.
So, myself, the deputy captain, and anyone else who has seen these designs, all have their own opinion of what they think. And while I understand the idea of the 3 and you guys know our opinion on this, it's like if we have to put the living quarters above the apparatus bay, if we have to, we'll do it. We would prefer the 2A. We like that layout better. We like the way with the everything on the first floor for admin and the living quarters on the second floor. We think it makes it much more conducive to working with people coming in and out. I know we have the elevator, we have the AD, for ADA and all that, but we just, Deb, let me know if I'm speaking wrong here, because we've all had this discussion. Now, I thought the three, when I first saw it, I went, huh, that's interesting. So I wasn't like, oh my God, no, but then other people were like, oh my God, no. So which you're going to get. I mean, that's just, that we expect that. But I think the overall consensus was we really liked the first option better. We thought admin on the first floor, you have a greeter there, you don't have someone come in and talk to a box or talk, right? It's very impersonal. Not that it's not the way it's done now, but I really like the idea of having an admin there saying, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? Da-da-da.
So it's workflow. It's the site and the workflow for your staff and visitors or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is your response time for scheme 2A better than 3?
Yeah,
Down?
Tom, that's a great question, and other than the fact that you have to come down one pole to go to the other pole, I don't think that there's gonna be, if anything, it's seconds. Having the second pole on the far side, now the guys are gonna have to decide which pole they're gonna go to, right? And at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're gonna be, do you want me to go that way, or which truck am I on today? Am I on that one, or am I on this one? So I don't think it would be a huge benefit either way for response time. Flow from the upstairs to the downstairs. I mean, I can tell you, some of the things the guys liked about that is the big separation with admins over here and living quarters are over here. That's a big separation, right? We're never going to see each other. Whereas with 2A, operations and admin are on the same floor. So that was well, we have to see you. Yes, every now and then you do, I'm sorry. From a chief's point of view, I like to see my guys. I like to talk to them. I like to see them, It's easier if I need to talk to the captain, I can stick my head out the door and say, hey, come here, when he's down the hall, as opposed to having to call him or try and find him wherever he happens to be, so.
So Chief, access and collaboration are important to the workflow.
Oh, very much so. Collaboration especially. We have meetings every morning. We have, we have that communication. The admin gets a phone call if possible, because not all calls come in 911. People will pick up the phone and call the fire station direct. Oh, my alarms are going off. Is there smoke in your building? Yeah, there is. Well, okay, why are you calling this instead of 911?
But
right?
your ease to get to the captain or the assistant chief is
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
As opposed to I gotta walk across the building and whatever.
Deb, do you have anything to add? You're just sitting there staring at me.
Go up closer.
No, yeah, I mean, the flow is better, and I think the interpersonal interactions is much better because it's something we lose nowadays, and especially if it's that far apart. It's, most of the time, a lot of firefighters don't wanna see the chief anyway, but it's good when they
I
kinda have to
understand.
see him.
Don't know why.
So on the intermediary,
He's the vice principal.
yeah, but, yeah, I will say though, from the elevations, I like how the third floor looks, but obviously operations is gonna trump looks anyway, so.
Yeah, the elevations, I went, that's kind of neat.
But-
Is there a way with 2A to put the tower, and I don't know if I'm just throwing stuff out, is there a way to split those 3 bays? Would that help? So we have 3 on one side of the tower and 3 on the other, and I don't know if
The
that's
tower in
beneficial.
between.
I don't know if that helps in either scheme. I don't know.
Sort of like-
Cap, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, I like the two,
2A?
the 2A for sure, and then putting the 3 doors and the 3
Or
doors
you like the
together.
double arch
Yeah.
instead of the arch over each
Yeah.
door? Yeah.
Those-
And I am agreeing with 2A. The 3 kind of scares me as far as cross-contamination.
Mm.
Your living quarters being above, and I know it'll be designed so there shouldn't be any, but as things get older, I would worry about
And
that.
as firefighters get lazy and don't hook up the plywood vents and back them in, it happens.
How
It
about,
does.
how about the costs, 2A to 3?
We don't really know the
Obviously, we
cost
don't
yet.
have a-
The
Is
square footage is a
3
little
more
bigger.
building? More building,
No,
I'm talking
but
like
it was a
more
little more
mass.
square
A
footage.
little bit more
Yeah.
square footage, but the foundations are less, the roof is a little less, you don't know how that
Yeah.
kind of works
You
together.
have another stair, which
You have
is,
another
yeah,
stair, you have
so-
another elevator stop, I mean, it's,
I mean, my sense is that the differential is one that is not huge and is something that you could find in the way that you detail the tower. I mean, so I wouldn't,
I think we thought I think Mark and I and Amy thought that there would be
Yeah.
more site to gain.
Yeah.
I mean, we picked up, I don't know, 14, 15 feet of the site, and it
Yeah.
did allow us to pull that away, but it didn't allow us to do, say, another tray of parking, which is what we were hoping for. I mean, maybe the engineers can figure it out, but Mark spent a bit of time trying to make sure that we couldn't get it, and that was a bit of a disappointing. We started out tighter, but then we could get the program to work. You know, the program didn't work well enough, so, so I think that, for Mark, that was the exploration, and in the end, that's what it ended up being, and we thought, well, is that enough? We wondered the same thing, so,
But at a certain point, it feels like you have the tail wagging the dog when the site
Yeah.
is becoming.
that is the reason we
Right.
did it.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
We originally
it's a
thought
great
that's the only way.
exploration,
Yeah,
But I, like, when you get into the fact that it's maybe not as good operationally.
Yeah.
Then,
So by agreement,
I just
By,
think,
Pursue.
yeah, I like, if I'm, 2A would be my preference.
by agreement?
I mean, we're perfectly
Bigger
fine
tower.
with that,
Bigger tower.
Yeah, maybe.
Anchor that
Yeah.
building.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the tower has very different feel for the building when it's on one side versus the other.
Yeah,
That's a
Mhm.
big difference.
Yeah.
in the middle is great.
Could you go back to the 2A site plan? Just because I want to mention something, because if I don't, my DPW director's going to beat me.
Mm.
And I had mentioned it to you guys again, but this area, you want it as gore area as opposed to a island. Does that make sense to you guys? In other words, he wants to be able to plow through here.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Whereas if
I
it,
think the gore area is the rumble strip stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is that-
I think that's what he was looking for.
We hear that all the time from
Yeah.
DPW directors.
Yeah, so I
Always.
told him I would make sure, and then he wanted to know if there was a way to take this, the generator,
Yeah.
move it back, so this was a snow storage
Yeah,
area.
yeah. Well, we're gonna have to balance, Mark, remind me, go ahead.
Yeah.
So the question I have though, I believe the zoning has a requirement for every 10 spaces you require to
tree?
have a tree. Is that
Is
correct?
that
Is that going to?
anybody remember that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
there are tree requirements.
so
Between parking.
Is it you plant a tree every 10 spaces or you
There's-
provide a tree every
it's
10
not-
spaces?
It's not decided.
Okay,
The town planner wants to see every 20 feet, but the bylaw doesn't say that.
Okay,
So you have to negotiate.
okay,
okay.
You
okay.
got a lot of trees on site.
That is
Okay.
one thing we did hear last time, that the safety for the fire staff and the people using, the public was paramount, because we talked about street trees and things like that at the meeting as well, and said the street trees would be impediments to the sightlines.
Yeah.
And so I think the board suggested they were open, and I agree with those.
So for the gore area, I mean, yes, it is an ask.
It's a waiver.
It's a waiver.
It's waiver.
Get a waiver for placement of the trees, because you don't want to have to put a tree every 20 feet in front of your apparatus base.
Oh, no,
Right.
can't.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Um,
And then
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
And there was one in the front, and that was to separate the parking from the apparatus, the drive-through, that one right there.
Yeah, yeah.
So the DPW wants to be able to plow over that.
They want to be able to plow through that area. And I said, I will make sure that I mention it again. John?
Your rear-facing apparatus bays, you would
Mm-hmm.
exit to the left and.
Yes.
Yeah, there's,
Onto the Main Street, and would you return the same way?
yeah, so there's plenty of room to swing that out there.
But they wouldn't go to the right?
No, because this is parking and this is slightly raised, if I'm correct, right, guys?
Correct.
It may be,
Maybe.
yeah, we've got to work through the agreement, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want them driving through
No, no,
here.
no.
These guys are used to driving in when there's fire trucks coming out. We do it now. They're used to being aware of that. Whereas if we're coming out here and there's citizens coming in and looking at fire trucks, that's not a good combination.
No.
Gotcha, thanks.
Okay, so by agreement, we'd like to pursue 2A, and anything else we need to know?
So are we requesting that they just continue the study of the elevations with
On 2A.
just that option?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's great.
Gives them that more of a direction.
I mean,
That was what?
I said it was great. I mean, we were worried tonight we would have like a split.
Like more options to manage.
Well, not that more
Three like
options.
this and three like that.
No,
What
no,
does that mean?
exactly, which, is fine, but, it's sort of like, it's good that there's consensus for good reasons, and that's really helpful, You're not sitting and saying, we should do it for other reasons, and I
Right.
think, it's great.
Okay.
I loved when you carried the arch over to here. You know what I mean? I thought that was, it just, I don't know, I thought it made it more, it was more pleasing to my eye, but
Yep.
what do I know? I mean,
You mean the line that comes off the spring?
no, the actual arch, they actually put an arch over
Oh,
the
we have
entrance.
an option of arch.
In one of the
There was
earlier-
one that had an arch,
This is for the,
yeah,
That one.
there, that one.
Okay, and now I've also seen, so like, this has an arch element, but it's not an arch. Is that,
it is an actual arch, it just, right in elevation, you see the back of.
okay, because I've seen, some stations that it looks like an arch, but it's straight across. Does that make sense? Because it looks like it's an arch, but it's not an arch, it just has an element to make it look like that.
It's the facade.
It's it's in, so you don't run into the, oh my God, we have to worry about carrying it, but you still get that same look
Right.
with that arch.
Well, none of these are really arches in the truest sense of the word, as Amy was describing. None of them are arches. They're all, these are not going to be.
It'd be supported by.
Is it an arch?
No.
Oh, fire chief.
Maybe we should look at Richard's only arches as a that would really be.
Well, Mark was actually looking at much real arches, and they look pretty terrible. He said, these look awful.
Yeah.
Circles?
Yeah,
Well, I was
that's
just
like-
thinking about, on the Richardson buildings, you just have that one really beautiful
Oh, yeah.
single arch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then everything else,
It's huge.
and then other areas are, as you said,
Linear.
based on their function.
And
Yeah.
please understand, I'm not an architect in any way. I have no idea, I can tell you how to put a fire out, I can tell you architecturally how I'm putting, what I'm worried, but we're gonna rely a lot, obviously, on you, on this team to say, this doesn't look good, or this does look good.
Can I ask you a question? You were talking about the three elements, the apparatus, the tower, and the administration pieces, as distinct, and that's what you were referring to in this thing right here. Okay, because I just wanted to make sure which three elements you were actually talking. Because actually, the piece that's between the tower and the pitch roof are also part of the operations.
Right.
The tower's sort of in the middle of it, it's sort of on the edge of it, just to remind everybody that there is a slight difference between that, at least on the first floor,
The
big
two.
time, So you look at it in plan, you look at it in elevation, you're looking at sort of two different things.
There's
And
a
I-
clock that makes him happy.
He's been smiling all night.
No, the inside is function.
Yes, it is functional, that's the important
That's the
part.
important thing.
Chief, the clock's got only one arm.
Yeah, yeah, without question, function, and I did, again, backing up a little bit to last week, they understood the importance of the function and the operations. I think that was I was really happy to hear that. They understood how critical that was to us and how important that is to the operation.
Okay. All right, future meeting dates, discussion.
So going back just to the first one, by the way, the
Okay.
flat, no arches,
You have to keep that one a little bit longer.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, we would like to keep that a little bit longer, but, and then there were two of those, and, one was more vertical, and one was a little bit more horizontal, more punched.
Function-wise, I have no problem with this.
Oops. Which
But I think what you're gonna run into is we're gonna run
Yeah.
into opposition from the people. They are really focused on this being a critical component to the downtown revitalization. It's on the edge, it's the first building going in, so they're really, I'm thinking, and you guys may know better, that you're gonna get pushback on that.
I agree.
I think there probably is pushback, but I'm still struggling with the rationale behind why that's not considered traditional New England architecture, because,
Yeah,
I could name, anyway,
I know.
I like that one a lot, but
What's the line about, I don't know anything about art, but I know pornography when I see it. I don't know anything about classic New England architecture, but I'll know it when I see it, right?
you're not the Supreme Court.
Sorry.
Well, that was the one interesting comment, that they weren't really sure how to define, the committees weren't ready to define that either for us. They could just say they liked the brick, or they liked some of the forms, or they liked arches. You do have quite a few arches in town, actually, in the end. When you look at all your buildings in total, I went through the thing, yesterday again, and I thought, there's
Is
the
there
arch
a
here.
way on this building
Yes.
to incorporate, so if you look at the old fire station, it's got that kind of front that comes up and has the little, arch, that little stone in the middle. Something like that on either side, to not so much, just to, instead of having a flat, you're seeing something.
Up on the top, you're saying?
Yeah,
Up on the parapet?
Yes,
Uh,
it's a parapet.
Right, like a parapet on both sides. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, trying to think something that's gonna make everyone happy.
At least on the apparatus-based sides, like the old one is.
Yeah.
The old one.
The old one on Church Street.
Has the arches with the
1920s.
white
Yeah.
filling them in right now?
But-
Take away the colors, pretend it's black and white first.
Yeah.
We actually tried to take, so there's a block there that has the year of the station, right? And I sent Captain Brewhart over, said, I want it before they tear it down. He says, it ain't coming out, though, I guess. I said, okay, because I thought that would be something neat to have.
Well, I'm just gonna keep going back to the Richardsonian arch.
Oh my God, okay, now I'm gonna have to look that up, you know that.
But to your point, there are beautiful Richardsonian arches all over New England,
Yes.
and they pretty much always signal the entrance to the building,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
which to me is a good solution here because you're creating so much complexity, this is where I go back to it being fussy, by trying to incorporate them into the apparatus bay area, like, that's your functional area, right? But it's also just a nice entrance, like, it just feels welcoming,
Yeah.
you know? Anyway,
Well,
One area for
Mark
sure.
had,
Yeah.
an earlier scheme.
Yeah, the early ones, the arch was just over the entrance.
Yeah, oh, it's just over the entry,
And
until
if
we
you
went to the meeting
put
last week.
the administrative residential roof all the way over to the tower. Then you've got the three components
Yeah.
anchored with this inviting arched entry. Maybe that's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, the second floor over the top of the, to the left of the entrance is pushed back.
Is your arrow?
So this
You could have a
is.
step roof, right?
Nope, you need this red line.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right in
Yes.
here.
So this area is set back.
but looking at the plan, that's sort of the Richardsonian thing, because there's the
Mhm.
arch and then it's set back. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
getting too literal, but there's an opportunity.
Okay.
Which do you want?
Chief
Do you
Burton's
wanna-
got an arch.
Richardson, is that what you're talking
Do you want to go back to the?
Oh, she
plan?
went, I didn't know what she can hear. I can't
That's
hear.
in.
That's Richardsonian Romanesque, which.
Yes, but that's in
but-
Everett.
I don't know, I
But
just
a
found a
lot of
picture
those
with it.
buildings have, like, I'm just talking about the libraries have, they're smaller scale, but they have like a more gentle arch typically that's over
Yep.
an entrance, and it creates sort of like an entrance portal, because then the door itself is set back from that.
Hmm.
I mean, that's.
Or it might be a way to incorporate an arch, and then keep everything else functional.
Exactly.
She put that in.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
That's a Syrian arch. That's the other thing, then you can get into all these different layers. No, it's a Richardsonian arch, but he chose different architectural precedents, like everyone.
The libraries are very distinctive. You can drive by any
Yeah.
Richardsonian library and say, I know who did that, you know?
Well, now I'm gonna be looking for that when I'm out driving around going, hey, I can
Yeah.
impress people,
Yeah.
that's a Richardsonian.
Your
And
wife's
he
gonna be
didn't just
really
build in New
impressed.
England.
Yeah.
He built- I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania, there are massive Richardsonian buildings.
It's true.
Yeah.
Princeton, Stowe, Acton, Sudbury, all have libraries inspired by Richardson. There are over 50 of them in Massachusetts alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everett.
Interesting.
Chief, I'm gonna drop my H.H. Richardson book off.
I know, I was gonna say, I'll bring mine out the next
I'll
time.
read through it.
My college advisor wrote it. I'll
Cool.
read it.
Give them the I am pay one also.
I
Wonderful.
do have those too.
Okay, so do you have any other questions from us, for us?
In terms of elevation, so we're still, everything's still open for option 2A, is that
Yeah.
correct?
I mean,
If you were looking at,
You go
if you had to be
Okay.
forced in, Diana, into an arch, do you have any opinion on any of them?
of the ones that you showed?
Yeah. Just
Not
curious.
that one.
Too busy.
No, not that one.
Definitely not that
Oh,
one.
thank you.
I love that one. No, I'm kidding.
I think, yeah,
Then-
Without the windows,
without the
clear story windows.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about that too.
And then the next one is just too flat
Too far.
to me. So I mean,
Yeah, Mark had taller ones, but then there was no material above the arch, and I thought that was terribly out of proportion because it got so close to the parapet that.
This
that
is
it-
Robert
that was-
Venturi's take on a fire station.
Wellesley, you know, yeah.
but
I like,
think the Clara story, I think I would like them better without the Clara story, to your
Yeah.
point.
I like the idea, so you still have the roof monitors up on this one. At least I assume that's what they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, I really like the idea of the monitors as a platform for PV.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing, plus it brings in natural light to that apparatus bay. And I can tell you, that's so nice to have when you're out there working, to have, instead of having the glaring, you
It's
know, like.
northern lights, so when you're sketching and painting, in your free time, you're gonna get proper coloration.
I know.
You know, I have firefighters that would buy that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's funny.
Can I ask, so
True spectrum.
now that we've kind of got into a flat roof area, how does that impact the mechanical? Can we move some of that out onto the roof and save some space inside?
We're still gonna need space in the building. I think there, you know, we were always assuming there would be
Yeah, I
some
didn't know if it-
exterior
If
mechanical.
it became smaller.
No, unfortunately, I don't think so.
Okay. Anything else?
Let's talk a little bit about schedule, and then we can come back. I mean, so, you know, Mark had a great question, you know, where are we? But, so I just wanted to, I wanted to talk to you a bit about the schedule, and I don't know if you can agree this, but we haven't changed the overall schedule of the completion dates at this point, and there's no need to. I mean, I don't think we're that off track, but this is the schedule where we are now. We're in schematic design, and what we have left, we're gonna actually, I'm gonna ask Mark to contact Par tomorrow about setting up the geotechnical test pits. I think we can start that. I think we have a scheme now, for the most part. We have a location close enough. Let's get the program started. We'll also want to arrange for the DPW perhaps to do some test pits along the way, so that, you know, we need borings and test pits. We just don't need one or the other. So we'll get that going. We have 2 committee meetings remaining at SD in 2024. That lead to the cost estimate. We have 1 design review meeting and 1 community information meeting. Now, last time we were here, there was a lot of conversation about when those should happen. But, and so they are currently, and I'm gonna, hold on, I get my own schedule out here, but I can read a little bit more. We had a meeting on January 10th for the community. And we had the design review meeting. We called it meeting number 2 because we were just going in order, and the documents had to go to the planner on the 11th of January, and that was scheduled for January 18th, which is a Thursday morning. And then we had another committee meeting on January 24th, which you would be signing off for us to proceed to the cost estimate. So that was the schedule, and that is the critical things that we need to discuss tonight, and how it affects the work that Mark and Amy and I are gonna do over the next couple weeks. Do we feel, I mean, I feel we have a plan, and we could have a plan presented and a site plan and a thing, but it's the elevations that still need work, and we've all agreed. You know, we spent a lot of time developing the other scheme. I think we had to do it. I think it was important to do it. Spent time doing that. We had the design review meeting. So the question to us is, do we want to shift those meetings around the community meeting and that, so that we can get a meeting and push the design review a week or something, just a week? We don't want to push it too far, because it throws the whole schedule off to the end of time.
You meet once a month?
If they have anything to review, but there's not much going on in design review right now.
So if we decide to push it out a week, that shouldn't be a problem?
They've been meeting on Wednesday mornings, but I think they have
It's
flexibility.
Thursday mornings?
Thursday
I think it's Thursday mornings.
Thursday mornings, yeah.
I can talk to
Okay.
Lori about that.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
We sort of talked a little bit about when they were, and I know they're kind of scheduled, but, you know, it sounded like maybe, you know, this is a really important project, maybe that they'd be flexible about that, but we'll have to make that call to her. But I guess the bigger question is, we need another meeting with you
Yes.
before we submit that, and,
Mhm.
you know, I think we're not in disagreement with that, but we wanted to make sure that you're not concerned, and then we would have a community meeting. At that point, we would have a plan, we'd have a site plan. We can have our engineers moving on this plan to develop the work for it, and the landscape architect and folks like that, and then we'll be working to, fine tune the plan as much as possible. Right now, there's a few things that we know we want to move, and then work on 3D stuff. And then we'll be doing, Mark Olsby, we have schematic design to do. That's a whole level of package of information that has to be put together. But the one big thing here that GGD, our mechanical engineers, when Dawn was in, he talked about the time, he needs the elevations approved before they can do the life cycle costing. So we need to get that answer as early in January as possible, a direction. It doesn't mean it can't move a little bit, but we need to get that to him early on in order to get the life cycle costing done. So I think that's the one thing that we didn't talk enough about last time, but it is in the mix here. It was in this mix, it's just not written down, but now that will be affected. But, I'm hearing we need another meeting. I think you're all in agreement with that, and so what do you think
Yeah.
about shifting?
Give us your-
Community meeting number 4 with,
The committee meeting number, or the community information session number
make number
2?
5, committee meeting number 5, January 10th, design review 18th, and community information the 24th. Would that work?
Say that one more time?
That's exactly what I just wrote down, except I had the 20, yeah.
Okay.
So what he's saying is take the, and I'm just gonna stand up here
Yeah.
because it's easier for me. Take this meeting here, which is our next meeting we have scheduled, and move that up to where the community information session is,
Right.
okay? And then take that one and move it to the 17th or the 18th?
24th.
No, the 24th would have been the design review, right?
Just look,
Well, we're gonna have to move the design review meeting number 2 out a week at least, because you can
Right.
see that next one says documents to the planner
Right,
on
so-
1/11. We can't have a meeting with you on the 10th and then submit on the
Right, so
11th.
community input would go
Can
out
we get through
to
that?
here,
What?
and then this would go out to here.
You just-
We're just dropping them all
I
down,
was trying to,
or not dropping them all down, that's poor.
So we're,
it's
sorry.
down here.
You're taking this meeting and moving it up to the 10th.
Yeah.
We go with that, right?
Yep.
Then the next meeting we would have to have would be community community input, right?
Right.
Which we could do on, what, the 18th?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Or the 17th actually would probably be better, because that's the Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So the 17th. I'll just write it up here, That's the 17th, right? And then we take the design review and push it out a week.
Yeah, we'll just adjust it, and I'll talk to Lori.
That would be the 25th.
Yeah,
Design review?
Would be the 20th, that's a Thursday, that's when.
and make sure that
she has
works.
to publicize it as a public meeting, is that why she needs it ahead of time? A week ahead of
Yeah,
time?
I think because of the review package you have to get to them,
Okay.
I think they need a week of review.
Design review requires us now to submit, and requires any drawings a week before their meeting, so they can see them, review them, instead of getting them the day of the meeting, they want it the week before.
Makes sense, but they don't usually review them.
I'm just, yeah.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Does that make sense to you?
So
Question
design
to-
review will be a
Yeah.
morning.
Question to the committee, Madam Chair.
Yep.
When are we going to be collectively comfortable with a massing diagram to show to people beyond this room?
I think when will it be
By the
ready?
10th, the 24th, I mean,
I mean, with the 24th, will be,
Well, the 17th is
point?
one, if we do community input on the 17th, we need to be comfortable with that massing,
that's my
which is
point.
why we have the fire station building committee on the 10th to finish off that, right?
Right,
Am I following?
Right.
yeah.
Am I picking up what you're putting down, is it
And
saying
we'll
that?
figure
That was my
Right.
point, Chief, thank you.
The other thing is, are we adding a meeting, another meeting, since we're adding this, or moving these meetings around, we would still want a meeting for you guys to sign off on SD?
Right, that would have to be
We'd have
after,
to add another meeting in this thing before we sign off.
that would be where committee meeting 6 is, right?
Well,
February 21st?
I don't think we want to
Oh,
wait
not
that
that
long,
far,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
gotta,
So,
I gotta look at these, but
I think
yeah,
we'd want a committee meeting with you after design review, I would assume.
right.
So the end of the month.
first week in
end of
February,
January.
last week in,
31st?
Wait a minute, I gotta be
No, but it would be
I got
before
old
the cost
big
estimate, so we would get feedback from design review, we'd make whatever tweaks we'd need to do, and then we'd meet with you so that you say, yes, this is what we want to have it Cost
estimated. Yeah, I mean, some committees actually formally vote for it. I don't know.
Schematic design.
Yeah,
or
just so that everybody's clear what's gonna be in, so.
So, yeah, I mean, I think
I got this.
if we meet with design review on the 25th, that's a Thursday, the following Wednesday is January 31st.
Yeah.
So meet with you on the 31st.
Sure. And design review, the whole committee doesn't need to be there for design review. I'll make sure I'm there.
I can be
The chair can be there.
That's 4 people, Chief, Tom, right? Zyra is
There's 2.
3.
We're supposed to be 3, but there's only 2 in there now.
Yeah, Dave Barron, the landscape architect.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's 3 in there now. There are 3.
Rarely shows up,
Okay.
so you have Amy
And,
and Lisa.
okay.
Okay, so let me go through this. January 10th is now becoming the committee meeting,
Mm-hmm.
number 5. And then on the 17th is now going to be the community information,
Mm-hmm.
session number 2. And then the design review is the 25th, which means we need to get our drawings to the design review committee on the 18th, a week earlier. And then we have committee meeting number 6 on January 31st.
So nothing on the
Everybody
20th.
good with that?
Yep.
Does that make sense, everybody? Everybody? Yep.
I think one of the things about the design review at that point, I think this is a different type of project than they typically are reviewing, and I think there's a discussion to be had about exactly what schematic design is. That it's not the final design, but there are certain decisions that, need to stay in place in order to meet the schedule and the budget and all of that, but
I did bring that up a little bit about the schedule, about, I don't know if you remember it, sort of at that time when there was talk a lot about the committees hadn't met yet, I said, we're formally in the phase is called schematic design, and it has an end period, and then we moved to a thing called design development. And then I said, at the end of design development, there are no more changes. I said that, I don't know if
pretty
anybody
clear.
heard that.
I did hear that.
Okay, and I said, because the next part is all technical, and there's no changes, period.
But at the same time, I guess my point is also though that
Yeah, they don't
schematic means
understand.
there's still a little flexibility, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so,
I don't think they understood, but I get your point,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
okay.
and then I'll adjust the rest of the schedule.
So
It's a little bit like
17th,
arranging
the
deck chairs,
25th, and the
but-
31st.
10, 17,
So we
25.
shifted about a
31.
week, probably, in the end,
Yeah.
only, in the end, probably, a week or so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
which isn't bad.
Is in person, I prefer in-person meetings. Is that okay with you guys? Or is,
I like in person if we can, I think we get a lot more.
it's
that
much
we can do.
easier.
But we can do whatever makes sense for you.
I know
But
that
we really don't
she
have to
loves
travel.
Zoom meetings. Right, Don? You love them.
Oh,
No, so if we can just maintain these as in-persons, I don't know
Yeah,
about
right now,
design review.
right now, I think we benefit from them, maybe later, when it's more technical or something, we don't have to, so we can play it by ear, but we're good with these.
Okay.
There's a snowstorm, we can always go to Zoom, I guess,
Plan B.
Well, no, we can't, because
Oh.
there's a requirement for public meetings to be posted 48 hours in advance, so we'd have to know 48 hours in advance if we were changing
Well,
it.
if there's a prediction for a blizzard,
Yeah.
we can make a
It's about-
decision
that's
then,
about-
and we can
yeah,
still
because
maintain.
She'd get mad at me because I make her keep changing stuff, so that's my,
I think actually in person, I think the flow goes better, the input goes better, and everything goes so much faster, and it's not as fragmented, so I prefer in person if we can do it.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem with that. I don't know what else I had here. I did have the rest of the schedule. We still have all these other planning board, zoning board, community information, master plan, we have all them. Now, we did have that master plan revitalization 1 meeting scheduled for here. They were at the other meeting.
I will reach out. I don't know if they need another meeting. I will check with them,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, so
Okay, with
anyhow,
Madam Chair.
I'll adjust these dates, but this is still the thing, and then, of course, bidding for CA is here. Next step is, we've talked about that step, sort of thing, so, okay.
Okay. Did anyone want to go back to design updates at all, or that was?
You guys said you thought you wanted to go back or not?
Oh, we can go back,
it's up to
anything
you.
you want to look at, I just want to talk about the schedule, because I think it affected the conversation about the elevations, like how, are we gonna submit something, are we not? What will we submit to them if if, you know, we wanted to stay on that schedule because we wouldn't have another meeting with you.
I think this is, the schedule has to be flexible for all of us. I don't think.
I think it is. I always call it a living document.
Yeah,
So-
that's not an issue at all. At least for, I hope, don't me do speaking for the rest of the committee, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there anything anybody wanted to go back to, or everybody's okay with?
I think it would be, guys, what do you want to talk about? You know, anything else? Quickly, short, we could talk as long or short about anything you want.
Could
Go
you
back.
introduce some other colors like forest green in your fenestration? It's a very New England look.
There
It's
is,
Black.
there is,
It is forest green.
Almost looks like a
there,
school.
It's hard to tell.
It's just hard to tell.
It's hard to
That one has
Yeah,
green.
Forest green.
that is green.
I like the
What's
forest
green?
green too.
That one,
It's just hard to tell, well, the different.
It's the
pictures
light.
Give you different color
Okay.
on the screens.
yeah, there's definitely green in this one.
So is that metal panel on the upper level?
Yeah, right now that is.
Okay.
And, but, the columns between the bays, is that also, is the green metal panel there?
I mean,
I
here,
think it's a material change. We haven't
Right,
really,
right.
yeah,
whether it's metal, whether it's, you know,
another
Slate.
panel
a
product.
panel
or- yeah,
product. I mean, with the new
stone, it
energy
could be-
code, I mean, the new energy code is gonna
Yeah.
throw a bunch of wrenches into these piers are hard enough to build, and then when you're trying to wrap them with the insulation and get the plane of the insulation and the door to line up, and it's not been easy, you know.
John?
Do it's maybe a Tom question, do our design review and planning board members understand these forthcoming changes on energy efficiency?
None of them are from building design, legal.
Okay. All right.
Not-
Part of my thinking is set the expectation, manage the expectation. That this is coming down the pipe and we can't just, you know, go to Home Depot and slap a couple of doors in there.
It's not even, it's here, it's not even down the pike, it's here, I mean, it must be affecting all of our work,
July.
yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you the building official has, in numerous meetings with both boards, brought it up and said, hey, you know, we have this, they're doing different things. I've heard him mention it, because unfortunately I have nothing else to do with my life, so I watch the meetings. And I have heard him mention it several times, so they at least know it's there.
But we'll have this permitted before the 10th is approved, right? The 10th edition, because that just came out for comment.
Yeah, that did come up,
Yeah.
and, you know, I think it's already here, I mean,
Well,
there's,
for the energy.
for the energy, I don't know, you know, we won't be permitting this until the end of the year,
The big change would be if Northborough opts in for the
anything enhanced.
enhanced stretch code.
Is there talk about that?
No, I think it's come up.
Yeah.
We are now a stretch code community, but we haven't opted in for the more enhanced.
I think
Yeah.
weren't there only 10 towns that were in that enhanced?
Very few, yeah.
Yeah, and you had to be picked. I mean, there was a certain group of expectations, and then there were a bunch of people applied, and people were rejected, or, you know, because we're only like 2 spots left in that case.
I think the city of Boston was not, they're
It was
not-
rejected,
it was
yes.
rejected.
They didn't actually even apply, and people were upset about that.
Yeah.
Like Cambridge is in it, Lexington is a, you know, certain group. Well, Cambridge is already net zero, so they were already enhanced before enhancement came out, so. But anyhow, I mean, it's complicated with the new codes, and we haven't even, I mean, Amy's attended the most of the meetings, you know, and sort of like triple glazed windows,
Yeah,
less
huge
windows,
learning,
less openings.
For
It's
the
a big
building
one.
officials as well. So
Yeah.
they don't know how to enforce it or apply it yet. So even if they were planning to adopt it, it would take them a while to be able to, you know, bring it into their system.
I know that GGD is concerned. They've had the testing, the benchmarks you enter into, that they're failing, buildings are failing.
The Teddy,
The Teddy, the new system you test your systems on, everybody's failing Teddy. No one's passing Teddy. And that's the state's preferred one. So everybody's using the passive house
passive house to try to get through.
to get
So
through.
so GGD, we didn't hear what happened. I know one of their engineers was going to sort of a meeting with the Department of Energy to talk about their experiences with it and how it wasn't working.
Yeah, I mean, if
The
no one
zoning
passes
officials are
Teddy.
not happy with the Department of Energy, because they didn't go through BVRS. the
Yeah.
implementation. So you have many of the building officials very confused.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of confusion. I mean, they promulgated it and it became a requirement, and yet the code wasn't finalized. It was just a draft book that was out there, and it's been difficult for everyone.
Yeah. So I know we're gonna have problems. I mean, not problem, it's again, something
It's a
that we're all.
challenge.
It's a challenge in the middle of a project, that we have to meet. And, I know that Dom, he spoke about it when he talked, about the testing, so.
But
It's
that's,
good that they're kind of ahead of this, like they,
Yeah.
they've been experiencing it on
They've
other
been-
jobs, but that's what, what Janet was saying earlier, is until we have a plan and elevations, they can't even start the process to sort of know where we stand on it.
Yeah.
And so they're getting, I don't want to say nervous, they're contacting us constantly saying, how are things going, how are things going?
Yeah, we hear from them on a daily basis.
Yep.
So, it won't allow massive amounts of glazing. Not that there would necessarily be in a building like this anyhow, but, it could change things. So we just have to, figure it out with everybody else, and figure out how to pass it. Because if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. It's gotta pass something. Or have you guys had projects where you're trying to pass Teddy or any of that yet? Have you had anything like that?
We actually passed.
You passed something? Yay.
That's good.
Okay.
I mean, it was a library project, so,
Okay.
I'm not sure. It was just an evolution. They just kept on trying different things to figure out what they needed to do to get the numbers where they needed to be. And it did pass, but, it took a long time.
Yeah.
You guys, have you?
so most of our work is either in construction or in really early design,
Okay, so you're,
so
okay.
we're watching.
We're watching.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
So anyhow, that's just another thing we're gonna be working on, so.
Along the lines of this discussion, related, so when we looked at the schedule, moving things around on the schedule, the schematic design cost estimate is dated for the 21st of January, but you were saying that's gonna be after we approve schematic.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we're gonna have to adjust the date. So
Dates on
we're
that.
gonna push out like a week, so.
A week.
But you don't think that's gonna mess you up later?
Well, I think we need to look,
Yeah.
It was,
whether it will mess us up later, whether we can recoup that week somewhere, or whether it's gonna push the whole schedule a week.
I'll
I
look
don't
at the
know.
whole thing, when I come back from vacation. I'm going on vacation, but Jerry has about 3 weeks in there, that's that January 24th to February 14th, so we'll talk to him as well. He does his work and then he gets it back, we review it, he takes it back, all the engineers review it. So there's, we don't want to cut that short, but maybe we end up having to squeeze a little bit later on. I had a little bit of time.
But we even have
yeah.
there, I mean, if he's got it for 3 weeks, then we've got another week between
To the
getting that
next
and the committee,
committee
so we
meeting.
might have a little bit of
Might
room
have
in
a
there
little
to
bit of room in there, yeah.
squeeze.
And
Okay.
I think, CDs issued for bid technically on the 20th, and then we had to the September 20th to October 25th in there. So, and then the meeting, in the fall-time meeting is, I don't know what the.
We had looked at October, November, because we wanted, it has to be in October because we're using the November election
Okay,
for the
right.
ballot. So we have to have that, in fact, it may even need to be a little bit earlier, it may need to be September, so.
Okay, so we'll have to look at all of that.
John?
Chief, have you heard from Mitch? He was gonna talk to Andy about some of the logistics and the mechanics of this in terms of the legal aspects of special meeting and then getting stuff on the ballot in November.
Right, well, so getting on the ballot in November, I spoke with Andy, and he says that's completely doable. We just have to have the town meeting, the special town meeting far enough in advance, which I think is 30 days, but I'm not positive, I'd have to look that up. So that's why I'll find out for.
You could do, then I can tighten this up a little bit.
Yep, I'll get
Yeah,
you,
okay,
get you some more.
Okay.
okay.
Any other business that legally can come before the committee? And it came to our attention, some of us, that there's been a misunderstanding on the site selection and how we came about getting it and if it could be changed. So I'd like the chief to address that a little.
I'd be happy to, Chair. So back during the feasibility study in 2018, June of 2018, the committee put out an RFI for anyone who within a certain area, and here's the map. You can't, I know it's a little tough for you guys to see, but you can pass it over there if they'd like to see that. That says, okay, if you're within this area, if you have 2.5 acres of developable land, if you have 400 feet of frontage on a public way, right-of-way easements, restrictions, access to public utilities. And if you want to sell your land to the town to buy this, to build a station, please submit under the RFI. Ken, could you just go put the cover on that, because we need that more. And we did that. We received six proposals. We received 9 Church Street and 10 Church Street, which are on opposite sides of the road. Now, 10 Church Street would have been in combination where the current fire station is, so it would be expanding and using that same area. We also received 7 Pierce, which is where the laundromat was, or where it still is, I should say. We also received, I want to get them all, 20 Gale Street, and we received 6165 West Main, which is where this is. And I think there was one more, and I just want to make sure I get them all. 10 Monroe, which is the other property that we bought. So 40 West Main Street was another one we got. So 40 West Main Street and 9 Church Street tied together. That's a property, and the old fire station, that's a property that was just, they've all been sold. But at the time, they were all available. So those were the only properties that we got. Those were the only submittals we got, the only people who said, yeah, take a look at our land. At the same time, we were looking at 222 West Main Street, because that was up for sale, and that was the corner of Lincoln Street, where they've now put houses up there. We looked at a location on Hudson Street, directly across from Maytech, up on the hill. And that was determined by the feasibility architect, that was just not a buildable area for us, too high in the hill, too steep, all that. And I had put forth 6165 West Main Street. So those were all the areas we looked at. And it's really critical for people to understand, we didn't exclude anybody. We did make a decision at that time. We were not taking land by eminent domain. We did not think that was the proper way to do it. We don't think that's fair to go tell a citizen or a property owner, we're taking your land for a fire station and we're giving you this much money for it. I supported that then, and Dawn was actually the chair of the committee back then, and she supported it at that time, and that was really critical. We didn't want to do that. There have been some parcels of land thrown around. Did you look at this? Did you look at that? We looked at anything people wanted to bring to us, or anything that we knew was currently for sale. That's how we came up with 6165 and 10 Monroe as the best locations. Cap, you sat on the committee back then. Am I missing anything?
No.
Right? There was no interest. One of the properties that have been bandied about is 77 Main Street. They don't have 400 feet of frontage on a public way. That's number one. They don't, it's in a floodplain.
Is that Harvey's property?
Okay? It's not for sale. It wasn't for sale at the time we were doing this. They didn't come forward and say, we're interested. None of that occurred. So we didn't ignore them, they just never came up. So I want to make sure that's very clear to everyone, mainly to the viewing audience, so they understand what the process was. It was a very thorough process. They were all vetted. Not only did these all come in, we then had a site rating matrix that we went through, and we reviewed each separate site based on the matrix. That was included in the RFI that we sent out, so they knew what we were rating it on. So it was a very well-done process, and that's how we came up with the location that we came up with. Any questions from the members of if I may, Madam Chair, through the chair, any questions from the board how we did that? I know you weren't on the feasibility committee, but I just wanted to make it very clear how we got where we were.
I mean, nobody was excluded. It was
No.
definitely, everybody was approached that had something that met the criteria that we were looking for, so, or came close to approaching.
Even came close, yeah.
It came down to 2 possibilities, your existing site and the current site we're dealing with.
Right, so
And
we,
then the decision was made after
right, so
that.
what happened is we came down to 10 Church Street in combination with us. 7 Pierce was not an option in our opinion, because to combine with it all, the owner of that property wanted to sell the property and the business to us because he wanted the value, because he was, which completely understandable, it's his business, right? He wanted to do that, which put the cost pretty exorbitant. So we decided at that point in time, how can we make this all work? And we took that one, and we took 61, 65, and 10 Monroe. And then we did another matrix, went through it all, looked at the pros and cons of all sites, accessibility to the highway. We did look at the limited, we looked at the site, and we knew it was a hill there, and was that gonna be a big problem? So we looked at all those things, and it came out, without a question, the best option at that point in time. And I still think the best option for us is 61, 65 in combination with 10 Monroe.
We just want to be really clear on how this came about and how we chose this piece of property. And as was said earlier, this piece of property will work. It's a challenge, but every piece of property is a challenge, so.
Yeah, even if we went, if for some miraculous reason we decided to go with 77 Main Street, that has its own challenges. For a fire department, I'm gonna tell you, and I think the architects will probably agree with me, and I know the deputy and the captain, I don't care if it's a 500-year floodplain or 100-year floodplain or a 1,000-year floodplain. I've been in the fire service for over 40 years, and I've seen 500-year floodplains flood 3 years in a row. I'm not building a fire station in a floodplain. It's not a safe thing to do, and it's not something I would leave my legacy to for this town. That was something I would fight to the end. So that's just my opinion on that.
Any questions, anyone? Okay, we just felt that everybody, especially the people on the committee, should understand how this site was picked.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Thanks, Chief.
motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, everybody in favor?
Oh, yeah.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.